All right, let's get into it. Good. Little context in what we'll be doing on the higher time frame. You could see that we've been stuck inside this range, price range, since the 7th of April 2025. We've basically been inside this entire range from the top right there to this bottom. But it's been in a bullish context. I mean, price overall has been very bullish, as you can see, keep riding up. But this has been the last major expansion that we've had. And if you look at that expansion, you would see that price moved, after creating that high, moved all the way back into discounts because you want higher prices. Basically, price has to move back into fair value, which is a discount. Basically, anything that is below the 0.5, which is an equilibrium of the move, is in discount, and price came back into our OT level, which is 0.75. And we've basically just been moving back up off that move. So if you see now, this was the last discount that we had here, move up. And basically, if we follow that price action, just gonna move this back here, you see how we've been doing. So this was the first price range right there, this to this. You can see how we went into that discount, moved up right there, didn't come into it, moved to that next one, back into discount right there. So this is our new range right there to this. You can see back into that discount right there. See that discount only moved up. Same scenario now, which is right here. You can see how price has been. This touched the 0.5 slightly, or didn't. Oh, yeah, didn't. So obviously we're moving up into this level. So you can see how where we have this lines EQ 0.614. So this is the last price range that we're in, and you can see how price has gone back into discount. So we expect for next week we move something like this up. So I won't be surprised if we open next week on Sunday night and we start to expand all the way to the high right there. And of course move to higher prices in these levels and possibly our all-time high. But essentially that's how we've been framing the price action, and taking trades off those moves. So this week you can see drop down to like a 1 hour time frame. You can see how this has occurred. This is Monday of this week. Basically you see price move down into, this was the 0.5 that I had marked out earlier, but you can see how this moved up, created this expansion, and if you pull this from there to there, we just drop down to the 1 hour time frame, so you can see even like more interesting things based on day-to-day price movement. You see how we came into the 0.5, danced around there, moved back into this fair value gap. See, it's still there, right there. Move back into this fair value gap right there, and then move down to the 0.6 OTA region, and then closed out on Friday. And we knew immediately that when we were going to open on Sunday, which was Sunday night, see this green candle expansion up, came back into this fair value gap again, right there. I'm marking this entire house because there's a gap there also. Move back into it, expanded up, and that was just a direct run all the way to that place. So seeing that on Monday, we were basically expecting price, because as you see, the only opportunity that gave us on Monday was this price movement here. This 1 hour fair value gap, this 1 hour fair value gap. Those are like opportunities to enter for more longs to take the highs. But created a high on Monday. Tuesday, we started to move down. And it's just simple. Basically, we have this entire range from year to year. That's the new trading range for the week that we're into. We've done this big expansion. We need price to come back into fair value. So we're expecting us to possibly move towards the 0.5 region, which is equilibrium. And you see, me seeing this on a 1 hour time frame tells me already that opportunities to move lower is in play. So you can see that right there. Price moves back into that. It's a 1 hour time frame. The first trade we took for Tuesday was this dropping down into a 15 minutes right there. And you can see this was the 1 hour fair value gap that we moved into, and we had this 15 minutes right there. So it was a case of a short from here. I posted it on our Discord, and then move this up somewhere there out of the way. Right there, this high was our stop, and target was this lows here. I kind of left a runner to expect the 0.5, but as you can see, we faced that. So my runner closed somewhere there. But I mean, the main trade was this lows that were in priority, well, closer to the 0.5, because I know, and I've seen it so many times, where after a big expansion, it tries to go towards that 0.5 region and it doesn't reach it. So I just know to use the lows that are closest to it, and we have what relatively equal lows right there. So that was the first trade, which was a basically 3.37 hour. That was for Tuesday. Back to 1 hour. We'll see on Wednesday what we did here was also quite interesting. So Wednesday moved back up and moved down. So this was market close opened, and then gave this expansion, and then immediately invalidated that expansion with another individual expansions on the 1 hour time frame. I always like to use the 1 hour time frame on gold because there seems to be a very good respect of the 1 hour PDRs that we have right there. So as you can see, that's a fair value gap right there, bearish fair value gap. There's also another one right there. And then we're basically dropping down to the 15 minutes because we've seen that respect already happen on the 1 hour. See, price moved into that. So dropping down to 15 minutes, I'm seeing this fair value gap. I'm taking that against the high right there. And my target is the lows that we have right there. Just need to move that back. High lows that we have right here. So that's a 1.4 hour trade. And that was like the second trade that we took on gold for Wednesday. I mean, it wasn't really a big trade, but that helped. Then we also had this back to 1 hour Wednesday. We did this expansion during the New York session. Did that expansion, left this fair value gap right there. So on me seeing London session right there, that this has already held price because price went there, this closed inside, this also opened and closed inside, and we also had this other last leg here. Of course, the same story is just dropping down to 15 minutes, and then looking for the fair value gaps that is there right after the respect to the 1 hour. So you can see this tiny thing here right there. That was all that gave me to long. So we took another long right about here. Stops were below this, and what I was targeting was this relative equal highs that we had here, right there. And that was another 221 2 hour RR trades, and that was that. So of course we didn't catch this shot. This was a wonderful trade for London, but we did not catch this shot. And it's just simple. I knew that we were potentially coming back to this level because we've not still tapped it and we've been dancing around here. It's why I also did not take these highs as my target for this long, because I felt that maybe this other block here, which I had already rejected off, was going to reject price. So I just kept it simple and targeted just this. But of course, we expanded even above that, and we did a nice drop. I mean, if you drop down to 15 minutes, you see clean bearish fair value gaps that we tagged there. We didn't catch this. And we just moved all the way down to this relative equal lows that we had there. And that was Thursday. So on Friday, which is today, basically the same thing. We had moved up. So if we're doing continuations, we had one fair value gap right there, and the next fair value gap we had was here. So if we want to keep moving lower to our equilibrium area, I'm expecting that somewhere around this should be a rejecting factor, coupled with us having this as a breaker also right there as a bearish breaker. So somewhere in this region should be rejecting price, which we saw happen right there. So on me seeing that we had tapped, even though we tapped slightly higher than it, and we moved back down, you can see that there was a wick slightly above it, and moved back down. That to me already gave me the indication that yes, this equilibrium 0.6 levels OT is probably in play again. And literally what we just did was notice we have this fair value gap right there for the 1 hour. I took 2 of these trades actually, so that was even interesting. So me seeing that, because this was like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. London time, London session, so I was very much awake. I took the shot off that level right there, and my targets were here, but we started to dance inside these levels, so I came out right there. Because after we took this, went into that fair value gap on 1 hour, moved down, started to do this, so I came out right in this. Coming out there, all I just did was, because my usual trade is 1 hour fair value gap followed by 15 minutes fair value gap entry. Usually that's if I'm not catching the 1 hour fair value gap. The follow up 15 minutes usually is what gives us that extra confidence. So I just knew that this was the second trade that I would usually take. So I had that set up there. Also remembering that today was NFP. So there's chances where this might go south, and targets were this low right there. So, but of course, if you are taking this low, we should break down into EQ and 0.62. So that's the trade. This was NFP news candle right there. We had moved all the way down and then moved back up and then danced inside this place for a couple of almost an hour, because this was 8:30, 8:45, 9 o'clock, 10, 9:15, 9:30, and then finally we broke through down there. So those are basically the trade ideas we had all through the week for gold. And now, since as you can see, we are now in proper discount, I would expect that when we open tomorrow, Friday, we potentially gap up. So if there's a gap up and we move even higher, Another 1 hour fair value gap right there would be great. So I'm just going to also mark this point right there. Just duplicate this for 0.79. Right there. So we expect that should be where we should reject. This also should be a good point, which is our 1 hour order block right there. That should also help us hold price. So basically all this region, I expect that we move up. We might actually move slightly down. I know there is a possibility, and reason why is because of this gap here that's not been repriced. So I know price tends to like to move towards these levels, and that might also be a possibility. Move up to this level and then continue like this, and then back up. But what I would expect us is for us to just gap up on Sunday open and go for this highs here. So yeah, that's the journey, and that's what we're projecting for next week. So if we have a runner also next week, if you start to see a breakdown, we basically just follow it the same way and we keep going up. But essentially, we are more inclined for longs more than anything. Yeah.